Please welcome Albert Maysles.
Thank you so much. I'll tell you a little bit about what brought us to make this film. My brother and I, in 1955, having a summer off and from teaching at Boston University, teaching psychology, I thought it would be interesting at a time, especially when so much stress there was between the United States and Russia, to go to Russia and to do something that would humanize Russia for us. No longer just RUSSIA and communism, but the people. And part of my motivation, I think, came from the fact that I was a psychologist. Anyway, somehow I had this crazy idea of getting into mental hospitals in Russia. So when I got there, I crashed a party, a Romanian embassy party, met the top Soviet leaders and explained what I wanted to do. He came back to me and said, "Here, take this phone number, you're all set." And I made this film in the mental hospitals in Russia. And 4 or 5 years later, I met up with Bob Drew, Penny Baker, Leacock, and we made a film called Primary, which transformed my life again, in that it showed us a new way of making documentaries, where no narration, no host, just letting things happen. And it had that kind of total authenticity and that total closeness to what's actually going on. So we made this film called Primary, of the election campaign between Kennedy and Humphrey. And that changed the world of documentary and our own world as filmmakers. Several years later, I think it was 2 years later, my brother and I made a film for PBS, a film of Truman Capote, who had just finished coming out with his book, In Cold Blood. And he thought of this book as the first non-fiction novel, which gave us the idea, well, let's make the first non-fiction feature documentary, a film that should be shown in movie theaters as well as television and so forth. So my brother had lunch with Truman Capote's editor with the idea of asking him what sort of subject might be of interest and could be worked out as a documentary. And he said, what about door-to-door Bible salesman? What about door-to-door salesman? And we discovered that there were 4 guys in Boston, our hometown, 4 Irish guys who were selling the Catholic Bible. Irish, I emphasize the word Irish because when I was a kid living in Dorchester, part of Boston, I had suffered with the confrontation with many an Irish kid, usually en masse, where a fight would begin, which they began, and I'd be punched.
They weren't crazy about the Jews.
Yeah, they were crazy about them, right. And it was a whole atmosphere at that time, beyond Boston as well, of anti-Semitism. So this Salesman film was our opportunity to become friends with the Irish, and we became friends with them by making this film. Also, I would like to tell you too, when we finished the film, we showed it at a group little larger than this one. And as people filed out, I noticed way off in the distance a woman who had been crying watching the film. And she got closer. I saw how attractive she was, and I elbowed my brother, and I said, "She's for me." That's how I met my wife. So that was a special gift that the film bestowed upon me. And Norman Mailer saw the film and said he thought that it told more about America than any other film he'd ever seen. And there's been one compliment after another. Sort of the heart of the matter, the whole idea of it, of spontaneity, of things happen just on their own. You see in the early moments of the film when Paul's having a tough time selling, and he's pretty much given up when the little girl sitting on the lap of her mother gets up and goes over to the piano and total spontaneously renders a piece of music that is a perfect illustration of what's going on in Paul's mind. it sort of tapers off in a kind of depression that was his. And so you have really good guys, and they come through as good guys, I believe, doing something that is very painful and not true to their character, but a way of earning a living. I'm not going to be here for the end of the film, so I'm trying to tell you as much as I can at this without getting intruding on the film itself. But
so it's very gracious of you to be here after a long day. I do want to ask, how many people are seeing the film for the first time today? So about the majority of the room, I would say.
Well, it's something true of every documentary, especially the good ones, that you see it once and you got to see it again. And this is kind of crazy, but it's true. A woman came to me. She said, "I've got to have more copies of it. They're all sold out in the bookstore. Can you sell me several?" So I got three or four DVDs for her, and she said, "I've seen it 200 times." The next time I saw her a few months later, it was up to 206. So it does go on, and the lives of these guys go on, having a very kindly attention brought to them.
Paul Brennan, who's one of the characters we're going to meet in the film, the rabbit, I recall you just a few years saying that he was still alive then. I don't know if that's true anymore, but you'd seen him in recent years, am I right?
No, he died some years ago, and I saw him all the way up to his death. The rabbit, whom you'll see, another one of the salesmen, he came to my office from Boston, and we got together just about a year or so ago. Mm. So it goes on and on, which is one way of saying that I really enjoy so much the filmmaking friends between what's on the screen. Those people, you feel their experience, they're humanized, they're a fellow person. As it says in the Bible, love thy neighbor, and I hope that you'll be able to feel that kind of love from your heart as well as it was from my heart in making the film. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Albert, for joining us.